Your body knows what to do. You just have to learn how to support it. That's why you are the practice. You have to spend time with yourself. If you're always putting yourself on the back burner, your body is going to respond to that. And I'm not saying that, it's going to be like you're a bad person if you do that. It's just that your body's like, okay, we're not getting attention. So we're going to get your attention.
In today's busy world, how can we find the inspiration, knowledge, and energy to live a healthy and empowered life? If we balance and harmonize our mind, exercise our body, live according to the laws of nature, and connect to spirit, can we find a way to heal, become our authentic self, and live our purpose with love? I am your hostess, Amy Fournier, and welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite. Welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier. This show is about helping you to be healthy and fit in mind, body, and spirit, as well as harmonize your masculine and feminine energy, tap into your intuition, your true source of power, and awaken your authentic self. My friends, I don't have to tell you that we're all going through massive changes right now, not only personally, but collectively. How can we navigate through this time gracefully and to truly evolve and face those challenges with strength and optimism and maybe even a little bit of joy and fun? Well, today's guest is Allison Pelot. Yep, Allison's been on the show before, but I wanted to have her back because we talk about these things and also to help give us some tips on making time for our self-care, because it's more important than ever right now that we make time to do that. Some of the things that we talk about on this episode is this ascension opportunity about being resilient in midst of negativity that might be around you. 3 ways to connect with yourself, prioritizing self-care, and some tips to do that. What to do when you have a chi leak. And Allison explains to us something really cool, our default state of mind, and how really self-care and getting holistically healthy and fit, in her opinion, starts from taking a look at our default state of mind, the thoughts, the energy that we kind of automatically go to, and we don't even realize that we're doing this. A very important thing to get clear. We talk about the body's intelligence, how you actually are the practice. It's not about the practice itself, and how it's more important to just be you rather than trying to be special that so many people are trying to do. We get into abandoning ourselves and numbing out and coping mechanisms that we all have, tapping into our childlike fun self, and cultivating the ability to receive. One of my favorite topics, one that I'm working on myself. So the ability to receive is such important energy to balance the giving and receiving law. That is a law of nature. We have to receive as well as give. Otherwise, it's unbalanced, and that's not the way things work. So how can we do that? And we, of course, have to get into the fine line between selfless and being selfish. Such an important distinction, how we need to really create the space for these things. And Allison is a great mentor for that. So please check out Allison's previous appearances if you're interested in this kind of stuff, because we get more into self-care as well as self-expression and inner child work on episode 97. And Allison's first appearance, episode 62, Finally Thriving, Integrating Physical and Mental Fitness. And I'll also add that Allison has a great online course that you can partake in, which looks fantastic. She talks about basically all the stuff that she does and all these different aspects of holistic health that can help you get a program, get some guidance, get some one-on-one time, and join her wonderful community. And she was gracious enough to give us a discount coupon code. You can save 10%, and of course that's in the show notes, okay? And if you do sign up, let me know how it's going. I guarantee you're going to love it. Can't wait for you to hear this great conversation. But before we do, I wanted to share with you that right now I actually have some therapy going on for myself. Why? Because I'm recording this in the dark, cold winter nights of New England, and it's freezing, and I'm a Florida beach girl at heart. It's hard for me, and I need the sunshine, and you might be the same. Do you suffer from seasonal affective disorder and really just have trouble with your moods and your energy and you just feel blah, right? Well, that's a real thing, you guys. It's a real thing. It's biochemical for sure. And we need light because light is a source of nutrition and instructions for every cell in our body, not to mention just making us feel happy, right? So important. There's a reason why we go to the beach and just like fresh air and sunshine, because it feeds our cells. But how do we do that when we have to work and we're stuck inside, or we're in a cold area environment that it's dark at like 3 o'clock? Well, I've got a solution for you. I love my sauna space photon light. It's just a big red light, and I got it right over there pointing at me as I'm working on my computer to help keep things bright and let my skin and my eyes see that full spectrum bulb that just makes me feel better. So you've probably heard of red light therapy for a lot of healing functions, such as reducing pain. It helps produce collagen in your skin, so it makes your skin really anti-aging, looks supple and soft. And let's not overlook the mood component, which is really what I'm into, because it's made a big difference in me getting through one of the first winters in many years that I've been not in a warm, sunny climate. It's an absolute must-have. Of course, they've got the full sauna situation, which is actually right over there. You can see it looks like a tent. But if that's not in your budget, or just, whatever, not into that, I definitely recommend getting at least one photon light. You will not be sorry. I use it every single day, like I said, for light therapy, but also as a night light, because it helps me sleep by not turning on all the bright lights when it gets dark. That's a disaster for your hormones, and will increase your cortisol, which increases body fat, by the way, and will keep you up all night. You want to create as much of like a home snuggie den. Even if you're in a warm place, you want to power everything down, and the red light helps you do that. It helps you see and not bump into the sofa at night, but it also doesn't screw up your sleep and your hormones. So I use my red light, my little photon light, morning, noon, and night, all the time. I love it. And my pets love it too. So all this is on my recommended products page on my website. There's a coupon code there where you can save some money, and you can check out all my favorite stuff over there as well. So enjoy, let me know what you think. And now let's join Allison Pelot. Well, Allison, here we are back again, and what a perfect time. We are recording this at the beginning of the beginning, a brand new year, an optimistic time of year, a time of year when a lot of us are thinking about life and what's important, the past, the present, what we can do in the future, what we can do now to help the future, a sense of hope, maybe a little bit of energy. And I just think you're such a wonderful guest to have on at this moment where I'm personally tapped into that renewed sense of optimism. And because, Allison, I feel like you have such a genuine, beautiful energy. And even I love your podcast, as I mentioned in the intro. And even when I listen to you speak, you have a very calming energy on my nervous system, which I desperately need right now, as you've heard before we started recording, with the things going on in my life. But so I just wholeheartedly give you a huge open hug. Welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you, Amy. That makes me feel so happy. Thank you so much for sharing that. And wow, I will receive that so lovingly, and I really appreciate you too. This is always a pleasure to come on your show and share insights and talk with you and get caught up and updated on everything. So yeah, thank you, Amy.
You got it. And I got to have you out to my place now that I have my place, and we can do our in-person events again. So I'm really hoping you make the trek, because you're in Oregon, right?
Yeah, I can absolutely make the trip. Yeah, I'll be there.
We'll make it worth your while. Well, you can do, Jason Picard, right?
Yeah, that's right. He's
Yeah.
out there too. Yeah.
He's out this way, and well, probably not too many other people. I mean, Nathan's in Kentucky, which is East Coast-ish, but
Yeah,
everything's East Coast to you in Oregon.
that's true. Yeah.
So Well, all right. So, as I mentioned, gosh, third appearance, which is rare. I don't think I have maybe too many guests that have been on 3 times, but it's well warranted because once again, you are constantly a seeker, a striver, a grower, an evolver, and you always have something new and valuable to share with all of us. There's so many things I want to get in with you. Why don't we start with what's going on? Okay, like 2023 was tough for a lot of people. The world, as we all know, is going through a huge upgrade opportunity. The end of the old stuff, the beginning of the new, the age of Aquarius, the golden age, the end of Pisces, all these things that are planetary, galactic, otherworldly, much bigger than our little 3D experience. And people are trying to find their footing. I'd love to hear your perspective on your 2023 and your thoughts for 2024, this whole possible ascension thing that we're stepping into, and to help the audience and me get a little footing, a little perspective based on what you've learned.
Well, thank you, Amy. And first of all, I want to say I'm honored to be here a third time. Thank you so much. And yeah, what is this whole ascension thing that we are hearing about, that we are feeling that's happening on an energetic level? What is going on? We know that there's something different happening. We've known that ever since, for most people, ever since COVID, the whole that whole thing, the pandemic, being locked down, and then even some people before that were feeling that shift when we talked about the Mayan calendar, in 2012, and the veil being lifted, and people started noticing different things. They were just becoming more aware of things spiritually, and so it's really been accelerating since that point. And really, what ascension is, really what it means is that you're bringing those higher aspects of yourself into your body at this point. We're embodying those higher aspects. So our consciousness is raising, and as that raises, we begin to become aware of so much more that we weren't aware of before. So we really rise above the old programming, like you're saying, getting rid of the old and bringing in the new. We're really rising above that old programming that was holding us in a pattern before of survival mode, where we couldn't really grow. We could only go, so much. There was a lot of limitation within that. And so now that his is being dispelled in a sense, it has been dispelled. But what's really keeping us in these holding patterns at this point is ourselves. We are used to these patterns, so we continue to perpetuate that in our lives because it feels familiar. It feels like as the world changes, we're grasping onto what feels familiar and what we can connect to. And so much of that is the outside world. And that's what we're used to connecting to instead of within ourselves, that connection within self, the inner self. And then from there, you connect to the outside world. But we're actually trying to connect to the outside world before we connect with ourselves. And there's a reason for that because years past, there has been like the way it's been explained to me is we have been severed, our connection has been severed from source. So it would have been a lot easier to feel that connection. It would have felt a lot more natural to feel that connection, but we had been severed from that. And so because of that, it just felt like we were always searching for this connection. We didn't feel that, we didn't feel loved, we felt abandoned, we felt betrayed, all these things. And so we built a big armor of programming around us so that we could be safe and secure that way. But we're moving into a time, this ascension time period is, we're moving into this time where we don't have to use those coping mechanisms and be in those old patterns of behavior anymore to feel safe. So now we get to break out of that and now step into something so much bigger and something really unknown. And so I think that's where a lot of the fear comes from many people, is that we're stepping into the unknown like we never have before. We really don't have any control over it in that sense because we don't know what's going to happen. But there is this sense of trust that we're building within our connection inside that will help us step into the unknown with courage and curiosity. So That's the way I see it. Is it's gonna, and so 2023 in my experience and what I worked on with my clients is we were setting up that foundation for what we're going to experience in 2024. So many people, experienced a lot of stuff come up because we're in a way clearing those old density patterns in the body. And so you may feel physical symptoms come up, you may feel emotions that you haven't felt in forever come up, you may be triggered by family members or friends that are going through things, or there somebody might need your help, and it might trigger something within you that it feels like something that you're still resolving. So there's so many ways that this can unfold. And I've also talked to people, they've had very dear loved ones pass away as well, and that's been a big theme for many people this past year. So we're all going through this kind of, in a sense, a cleansing process so that we can have more space for that light of the ascension process to come into our physical form, which is our bodies. And then we can talk about, what that leads to, and what I've been learning about the body's technology, and how it's not just what we've been taught. It's so much more than that. So this is why our body is, in a sense, our vehicle of abundance in this reality.
Plus, I'll add, like cleansing, the whole idea is it's going to help make you lighter. And as we ascend up from the material to the spiritual, matter is denser than the spiritual realms, right? So our body literally and figuratively can become lighter as
Yeah,
we release the heavy stuff, the baggage, literally, physically. Actually, one of the first show I did in 2024, I think it was episode 213, is on the number 8, the year of the 8, which is 2024, is an 8 year. And that's all about simplifying. And, well, of course, it's connected to balance and the infinity symbol, the sideways number 8. But cleanse, a big cleansing year, as far as kind of like bringing things into balance. But to your point, it just made me think about how, like what you're saying is literally about us getting lighter by getting rid of the baggage, so we can literally ascend spiritually on that level.
absolutely. Yeah. And let me tell you, the year that I've been through has been pretty trippy. The experiences I've had, I haven't taken any drugs. It's all been natural. And, eh, the themes are really, for me, and what I see in so many people that with what we're going through is we're just, we've abandoned ourselves in many different ways, and that could be through addictions. It doesn't have to be a substance addiction. It can be, an addiction to an emotion. It can be an addiction to a way of being in victimhood or blaming. It can be, the savior complex. It can be the martyr. It can be, the persecutor. Whatever it is, we can get addicted to that kind of programming because it, in a sense, it makes up our personality. And so then we think, okay, our personality is who we are, right? But the reality of it is it's really not who you are. It makes up, in a way, your ego self, but your ego is just a way to navigate this kind of backwards reality that we've been living in. And so your authentic self is hidden behind that personality. And there's a book actually that I was reading a couple of, maybe about a year ago. It's called The Masters of the Far East, and I can't remember. Let me see if I can see who the author of that was. It was Barrett T. Spalding, and I think he wrote the life and teaching of the Masters of the Far East, and he wrote more than one of these. I think there was a series, and what he basically says that really got me thinking was that we tend to really worship the personality instead of the idea. And what we're really actually seeking is to embody the idea that the personality is expressing. But we instead start to, this happens with famous people, this happens with idols, this happens with gurus, and we mistake the personality for the idea, when we really, it's about taking the idea and embodying it, making it your own. So, when we talk about personality, that's not really what we want to be like focusing on so much, because that's not really who we are. It's about peeling the layers off. And this year the theme is like, who are you underneath all those disguises and all that armor you put up, and all those things that you thought you were going to become, all those things that you thought that were going to make you special. Like we strive to find what makes us special, and I've been through this journey as well. And it's not about being special, because you already are magnificent, but we are taught to believe we have to find things to make us show up to be like, oh, this is my gift, this is what I can do. Now what you can do not necessarily is your gift, so much as it's more about your how the energy that you bring to the table, right? What is your energy like? And that's why it's so important for us to learn how to master our own energy. And that's what my class teaches people, is really through that mind body spirit connection, because it's all important. As spiritual people sometimes tend to discount the physical, and more physical people in the fitness industry tend to discount the spiritual, or the energetic. And they're both important, and they both rely on each other, and they're interdependent, because anything that you are bringing through on an energetic level is going to manifest in a physical way, in physical form. And so what you're thinking, spiritually, what you are focusing on energetically, where you're leaking your energy, or where you're really focusing and your energy is flowing to in a good way. These are the things that are really going to manifest your outside reality. It's going to manifest your body. It's also going to tell, like I teach my clients, what you're thinking 90% of the time is what's going to direct your body to do what it does. It's really, you are the director of that. And many people don't realize that. So yes, we are in charge in a way, and so that's the way you kind of take control, is if you do take control, or to find a sense of groundedness and safety within yourself, is to start paying attention to what you are doing there, and that's what we look at on all levels. But yeah, I mean, it's really, it's getting out of that. I just feel like there's so much out there, especially on social media, that's telling people how to be, and just seducing them into being more than they are when they're already enough.
Well, gosh, there's so much there. So you mentioned about ways to connect to the self as the foundation, really, of getting our feet on the ground for this ascension going on. And I, like you, feel like that's essential, that we are connected to ourselves. It's such a lot of people don't feel connected, whether it is to themselves or to others, or they're coming into the second half of their life. I know you just went through menopause. You've talked about that publicly many times, and the second half, and how it's such a beautiful mind shift to be thinking of what you're gaining as a result of going through menopause, rather than how it's been framed previously culturally as what women lose. They lose their
Yeah.
youth and vigor. They lose their ability to bear children, which translates to have value and purpose. They lose their sexual attractiveness. They lose youthful skin, pick it, right? Whereas we know better now, by doing a little research, that it's actually the best time of your life as a woman, potentially, because you're the most free, and your energy is now for you. And you just have, hopefully, by the time you've reached menopause, more of a sense of who you are and what is important to you, that is worth sweating about or not. Women tend to care less what other people think when they hit that age. And if you're not there yet, don't worry, there's hope. So I'd love for me, and we could definitely get into that, but I really just would love just to put a little pause in it and have you share with us any tips that you've seen in working with your students and your clients or yourself on, a couple quick practical ways someone can really start connecting with themselves more as the real jumping off point to the rest of their lives and the year ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's quite simple, but it's so profound that people just miss it because it's so simple. But it's about prioritizing time with yourself every day, making that a daily practice, because what you're practicing is you're practicing being in your own energy. You're practicing valuing yourself, honoring yourself, learning about yourself, understanding yourself better. And so that really relates to what you were talking about, Amy, with menopause, is because when we go through that as women, and even men, I think, go through some kind of a menopause too. I mean,
Yeah,
they go through a shift
andropause.
in hormones.
It's andropause.
It's called
Right,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Mhm.
and a lot of men I've been noticing talking about the testosterone supplementation because of that, but it's funny. But really they go through it too, so we all go through this shift, and we've been told, these are all the things that, we lose, like you said, but there's so much to gain because you slow down, you understand what matters most to you, and you start because of that, you start to begin to create space in your life for you. And we haven't really had that opportunity, most of us in our lives, when we've got a lot of things going on, when we're doing things for other people. We're coaches, we are mothers, we are wives, we have friends, we have all these things, and we're doing things for others. I would say the majority, of your adult young life. And then you get to, that midlife time. And there comes the opportunity for you to just be with you. And some people have a hard time with that because they absolutely don't know what to do with that. And so that's what my class helps people with, is before you get to that point, if you don't want to wait, to have that kind of crisis, we can start working on that now. And it's actually a joyful process. And because I it's what we talked about with that severed connection thing. It's like we're afraid to be alone because we think we're alone.
So, but can we get a little bit granular? Like, what are some actual things just for the audience to get value as far as what do you usually tell them to do? Like, how do they?
Yeah, well, I can go through what we do in the class, a quick synopsis of that. And so we go through, first is we align the mind. We work on aligning the higher mind
Okay.
to what we want to focus on in the class, what we really want to um like really what we want to focus on to change, in our lives, really. Like what are we focusing on that really doesn't serve us, like media, social media, stuff on the news. We tend to like want to jump in the ring and throw our opinion out about something that's happening in the outside world that we really have no control over. But what we don't realize when we do stuff like that is we're actually giving we're giving our time, our attention, and our interest away to something else, our focus, instead of bringing it back to ourselves. So that's kind of like a chi leak in a way. That's an energy leak. Like if you ever have something that happens in your life too, like some kind of a trauma, or you're betrayed, like I did that over the summertime. Like this happened to me, I can share that story as well. That became an energy leak for me, and so all my focus, all my attention started going to that, and my worry, and you know and then so it was really robbing me of my own life force energy, and I started to feel tired, I started to feel not creative, I started to feel unworthy, I started to feel, all these old like um you know uh, emotions come up that I hadn't felt in a long time. I was like, wow, okay, I know I can do these things, but I just don't feel capable right now. So I learned helplessness uh feeling as well. So when we're giving our energy away to other people, even if we're just like giving it to a spiritual teacher, or we're making someone bigger than we are, or even making someone smaller than we are, like we are focusing our judgment that way. And so again, that's another way of taking our focus off of ourselves. So what we do is we bring it back in. And even, there have been people in my class that have gone through some pretty traumatic stuff. And so this helps them reframe it and bring it back into a way that they can have a different perspective on it and see more of the light at the end of the tunnel in that situation. So we start to do these very simple practices of aligning the mind. We look at what we're thinking. We call this the default state of mind. What are we thinking 90% of the time? And I probably talked about this last time on your show, which is it seems like a very simple thing, but if you really focused on what you like, become aware of what you were thinking 90% of the time, then you would understand how your reality is being created.
Yeah.
So, right. So, because our thoughts will also move into form. So, and if we keep putting energy to those thoughts, then that will be the dominant, timeline you'll go to. So, and it's not to say that you shouldn't like think bad thoughts. If you're thinking thoughts and then you need to, it's triggering, something's triggering you, it's about resolving that for yourself and maybe stepping into your shadow. And so I give my students the opportunity to do that as well. We can step into our shadow, embrace it and bring it back into the whole of our being. So we're not rejecting that part of ourself that we are feeling uncomfortable with or that's been unresolved. And a shadow aspect can just be, the energetic imprint of an experience you had in earlier in your life, and it's stuck with you for years. And so you navigate your life from that place. So we work on those things as well. We kind of clean out the clutter of the mind and bring in the higher aspects of the mind, which is really our truth and what is natural for us. All these things that we experience, the abandonment, the rejection, yeah, they're real, but are they natural? Like
Yeah.
it's not natural to feel that way about yourself. So, in order for us to be able to bring in uh, that unconditional self love for you and to be able to deeply care for yourself and honor yourself, we have to go into those places where we can clean out that kind of clutter, and then not just clean it out, but love it and bring it back in to self acceptance through self acceptance. So it's about acknowledging, allowing, and then accepting. And then, then you're integrating it, right? We're integrating those aspects that we are afraid to see in ourselves. And then from there we get the fun, gets to happen because then you get to imagine a new possibility for yourself, new things for yourself. We use our imagination muscle. We do we basically just it's kind of like an art class. So they do a vision board, but it's not like everybody can choose to do the old fashioned vision board if they like, but most of my students end up doing something a little bit more abstract and they're always so beautiful, but it's really what that symbolizes for them moving forward with the new energy. So they're just putting on paper in the form of art what they would like to see moving forward in their lives, that energy, that energetic aspect. So then from there we learn how to connect with our body's technology, which we can talk about as well as it relates to ascension. We work on foundational food and fitness practices, and just I wanted to help people with kind of go deeper into some of the aspects. I go into my book with our body's technology and how brilliant and intelligent it really is, because
Mhm.
we tend to think of intelligence as like book smart, but really intelligence is the most magnificent intelligence is found in nature. It's found in our bodies, right? So it's like important to connect with that. It's important to connect with your body's natural healing abilities. Cause in a way, it's like superhuman. If we really like looked at that, we're like, wow, this is incredible how it all works together.
One of the hardest and saddest pieces of that is that we're taught not to trust it. We're
Exactly.
not it's not cultivated when we're young in our culture to even tune into that and respect it. And then if you take it to another level, you were a high level uh, athlete, as was I, and then being professionally in the fitness industry and all that. We were completely overriding our bodies and
Oh, yeah.
not trusting at all. And and then we get the whole willpower thing, and overriding when you're tired, when you're hungry, and then work ethic or addictions or whatever. I mean, you pick it. It's like, what body's intelligence? And then look at our sick care system. I won't call it a healthcare system. The sick care system is, the war on cancer, right? I mean, attacking the body. I mean, the autoimmune disorders and the body attacking itself, and then these supposed vaccines or whatever that are, or when you get a cold or the flu and taking it over the counter to stop the symptoms of the sneezing and the stuffy nose and, the fever, all that, when the body is trying to obviously do something. So we're not,
Well, I would love to
yeah,
say something about that real quick, actually. I
please.
mean, that is, and part of that is, in a way, it's like, it's genius to convince people. It's a type of infiltration to convince people that their bodies are attacking them. Their bodies are working against them, right?
Good business model.
And it happens the same with the spiritual communities too. It gets infiltrated just as much. So it's like, where are those things that you see that just don't seem natural? Like, why would our bodies naturally want to work
Yes.
against us? That doesn't make any sense, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to, like, put
So
that in
true.
there. But yeah, so interesting. And yes, we got a big taste of that this past. I mean, people that, you and I've been aware of this stuff for years, but now, like, a lot of people who weren't aware of it before are starting to wake up to that. And they're now not trusting the medical industry as much as they were before. They're looking at it differently. And it all does come back to being able to trust your body. Do you need support sometimes? Do you need help? Absolutely. But at the same time, your body knows what to do. You just have to learn how to support it. That's what I always say. And so that's why you are the practice. Like, you have to spend time with yourself. If you're always putting yourself off, putting that time off with yourself on the back burner, that your body is going to respond to that. So, and I'm not saying that, it's going to be like you're a bad person if you do that. It's just that your body's like, okay, we're not getting attention. So we're going to get your attention somehow. Right.
I love that that's one of your mottos, that you are your practice, and about honoring your own process. Another one of the things I've heard you say that I think is really beautiful, I'd love for you to speak on, is about how you talk about how it's not being special, or it's not about being special, it's about you being you. Tell us about why you came up with that. Where what were you seeing, and what does that really mean to us to do?
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up because I do have a story that relates to that. And this will be a great example for people, some good imagery for people to also reflect on in their own lives. So, when I was a kid, I was a gymnast, like you mentioned, and I was a tough kid. And I think you were too. And we have similar backgrounds,
Had to
right?
be.
Yeah, exactly. And so, when I was younger, I'd say around 5, like, people started telling me I'm tough, and it started feeling like a compliment, like, oh wow,
Yeah.
that's an attribute. Oh my God, like, I'm a tough kid, I can really, um, I'm really resilient to anything. I can do anything. I can push past anything.
Yep.
Which, if you think about it in a way, that is an attribute. It's good to be resilient, but the thing is, you can't be resilient all the time. You have to sometimes soften up. You have to go with the flow. You have to be flexible. So if you're putting on this, like, restrictive armor of resilience all the time, that's going to backfire on you. So as when we're kids, it's like, oh, that really, it meets a need. And then as we grow and into our adulthood, then it's not, our needs don't fit into those, clothes anymore. Like, if when we're a kid, we're wearing these little clothes, but then as we become an adult, we wouldn't wear those same clothes, but we use the same emotional coping mechanisms that we would when we were kids, right? We use the same patterns of behavior of trying to get affirmed or, acknowledged, receive love from other people. We still do that as adults. Maybe we don't know we're doing it. We're doing it. So then that's when that becomes detrimental to your self growth when you aren't realizing that, like, oh my God, okay, resilience does. There are times where I need that, right? There are times when it really serves me, but then there are times where it doesn't. It actually limits me greatly. So it's about what you said earlier is harmonizing these attributes and these aspects of ourself and bringing them it together because you know they're not there's no particular one that's bad because they do serve a purpose, but it's really about knowing the balance there with them and harmonizing the yin and the yang and going back and forth and oscillating between what is useful and what is not in that moment. So it's becoming more aware of that and about yourself. And no one can tell you that except for you. No one can really realize that about you except you. And so that's where the self discovery process really starts is with these old programs that still running on that don't fit you anymore. They don't fit your life. They don't fit your goals or what you're how you're wanting to show up or express yourself in the world anymore, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah.
And you've also talked about that you've actually realized recently that you've actually abandoned yourself before. And I think, w- if not all of us, many of us have done that. And we don't even know we have. I would love for you to explain what you mean by that and how do you see people abandoning themselves without even knowing it and the ramifications of that.
Yeah, yeah. That's something I realized over the summer even more so. Like I'd known it was something that was in my awareness for years, but not to the level that I realized it over the summer. And it's a way of taking yourself out of the equation to make other people right and you wrong, or you make you right, you wrong. You're putting yourself on a pedestal or you're putting yourself beneath that person. So, or you're valuing their perspective over yours. You're just saying,
Mm,
oh, well, mine doesn't matter because you're right.
yeah.
You're smarter than I am. And, y- there's many ways that we can abandon it. We can numb ourselves out. We can numb ourselves out with substances. We can numb ourselves out with working out too much. We can numb ourselves out with eating too much. There's many, ways that goes too. We can abandon ourselves by um, being addicted to being in a crisis, to be having drama in our lives. So it's really just you not putting enough value on who you are and really honoring that part of you. It's you just leaving the building. It's almost like this is a topic that's been coming up a lot lately is channeling. I've been seeing a lot of people channeling. And then our friends who Sarah and Alex talked about this on a IG live. I was like, that's interesting. They said like 3 or 5 of their clients this happened to. And I've seen this happen in my environment too, is people are just like abandoning themselves to let some kind of entity in, and that's
Well,
essentially what we're doing, in a way too. We're letting we're letting something else take over. Like we're saying, it's too much. This is too overwhelming for me to be here in this body right now. And I get it, I totally get it. I've done it many times. But we're like, oh, I gotta get out of here and let something else drive the car because it's just too much for me right now. And so that's a way that we abandon ourselves energetically is we literally like step out and we allow something else to drive the car. And that's how entities can come in, right? What we know as entities. It sounds really scary but it's totally something that happens to everybody that's on this planet. We've all had something like that happen in one form or another. And Paul Levy talks about it with Watiko.
Chico. Yeah.
It's a form of it's kind of a similar thing. It's like an entity that comes in and just takes over. And sometimes like it can be the way it's been described to me and what I've experienced, it can be something like when you were a child, like it's, hey, I needed this to survive. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think I could have survived this if this didn't happen. But then
Yeah.
you get to a place where, okay, you've outgrown it. You don't need that anymore. You don't need someone to take over or something to support you in that. And a lot of times, like the energy itself is also tired. They want to like move on, and go back into source. They may not know it, but that's another way to look at it. But so that's a way of just us like making peace and stepping into our physical bodies and being here now. So becoming present, really truly present, and saying like, I'm here now. I've been doing that a lot lately, is just saying, I'm here now.
Yeah.
I'm not in the future. I'm not in the past. I'm here
Yeah.
right now, because that's another way we can do it. We can be worried about the future. We can be worried about the past, and then we're not in our bodies. We're not here. So that's a way of abandoning yourself too. And so we're not always going to be perfect with that. That's going to be a practice of coming back in and being present. But you can do that through meditation. You can do that through just being still, which is what I teach my students in the spirit aspect, is like, how do we just be with ourselves? How
Yeah.
do we have that pure presence for ourselves? Because when we can do that, we can be in our body now. And then we can also be there for other people. We can be purely present for other people. And I'll just say one more thing about that too, is like I've noticed as well, like these subtle things, and I've noticed some of my clients too, um, like some things we do to numb ourselves out before, or just there's like, I don't need that anymore. And they just stop right away, like with any kind of addiction, um, with anything that would normally they would need as a coping mechanism. They just stop it like cold turkey.
And when do they stop it? By doing what?
When you start to heal yourself, and you bring yourself back into your body, right? And then you realize that I'm here now, I'm purely present.
Gotcha.
And yeah, does that
Yeah.
make sense? And of
Yeah.
course, it's a process, right? I mean, it's not
Yeah.
just like, okay, but like, but it is that easy too. It can be, when we start to focus on, okay, wait, I am an energetic body and I'm a body. We are energy and we are our body. Our body is in the energy. It's like that. And then the energy expands out really far, all around us. It's huge. But we tend to think we're just this little body.
Yeah. All right, but let's just back up a minute. You talked about entity possession. I guess I just need you to clarify, when we're not being present. Well, how was it the entities come in when we're not looking? You'd have lost me a little bit on that.
Yeah. So, okay. So I could use a different word. I could maybe our shadow aspects, come in and kind of take
Okay.
over,
Okay.
right? That could
All right.
be instead of
Oh, so not
entity.
really an
Yeah.
entity, because that
Well, I kind of
entity.
think the shadow and the entity are a little bit one and the same. They can be, you
Well, the
can
shadow is a
clear.
different part of your own soul, but an entity I think of as another outside being, like literally an entity possession. I mean,
Yeah, I
maybe
used
it's
to
a.
think more like that, but now that I've learned more and experienced some different things, I'm like, oh yeah, that's just. I mean, yeah, your shadow's a part of you, and so that's why it's not like, oh, this is an outside thing. It is a part of you. All of it is. It's kind of hard to, I guess maybe that was a little bit deeper. I should like backtrack a little bit on that one. But yeah, think of it as just like a shadow aspect of you. And so you're abandoning yourself so the shadow
Okay.
part of you can take over, or the ego, or you know, um, like an archetype or something like that, right?
Okay.
Uh, yeah, if that makes more
So
sense.
And so, in that regard, I guess we could also say, Allison, it's like your unconscious programming kicks in, because you kind of lose your
Yeah,
presence and your connection with your true self. So that
yeah.
unconscious shadow behavior.
just takes over, and
Yeah,
you're
because you
having
don't
that
have
kind
to
of.
do anything, right? There's no
Okay.
work, and it's just
Okay.
it's automatic, right? Because
Yeah.
maybe it's been with you for so long, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so you're like, it's overwhelming. I can't do this right now. So let me just let. But then there comes a point in people's life where that feels uncomfortable, right? It feels uncomfortable to let that part of you take over.
Yeah.
Um, and then you're like, wait, I don't, this isn't me. This isn't who I am. Who is that? That's when you start asking the question, who am I? What
Or
am I
you reach
living
a
in?
point,
where you're like, this just isn't working anymore. I can't do this anymore. Like it gets like you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, as they say, and you're like, I've got to do something. And that's when you change.
Yes,
hopefully you don't
absolutely.
get
Beat up too much before you get to that point. Some of us are thicker than others.
but some of
Yeah,
us get
A
it.
2x4 rather than a little pinprick. But um, all right. So, and I know you're a big fan of like inner child work and imagination. I know that's a big part of your offerings, and me too. I'm just thinking, Allison, that's correct me if I'm wrong. That's probably a way you help people get in touch with the true higher them of really who they really are, so they can have a strong core, a strong identity to resist falling into unconscious shadow behavior, open to entities, all that stuff. Am I right on that?
absolutely. Yeah. And
Understanding.
absolutely. And, our childlike self really does represent innocence. So we're coming from a place of pure innocence and not having to know everything, not having to be right. And so it takes a lot of the pressure off because you can step into the unknown that way because you're like you don't have any conceived notions about it, right? And you don't need to take control over that so much. You can just go with the flow. So yes, that is important to connect with that part of yourself because pure innocence is really where that's our essence. That is who we are at its core. Um, Everything else is just been a layer that's been put on us to make, in my opinion, to make us think we are someone we're not, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, so we all are, we all are innocent in that pureness, of ourselves.
And what I love about that state of mind too, Allison, is it's the non-judgmental place.
It's like,
Exactly.
And that's what love really is. The opposite of love is judgment, right? We're not,
Yeah.
it's just, and it's not attached. It's not a clinging and an expectation. It's just a being, a presence. And that really is, it's a sense of levity and joy. And that's just the realm of imagination, right? It's just,
Yeah, yeah,
where you,
exactly. You hit the nail on the head. It's about judgment. And when we're in
yeah.
judgment, we're very we're limiting ourselves. We're very restricted. We're not letting anything in, we're uh it's a resistance within yourself. Like, it will show up in your body as well. And how you speak to people and all of these things. I mean, we all have been in judgment. We've had a lot of years lately to
Of
be in
course.
judgment and of what's going on in the world. But at the same, but then you realize that, oh, I can judge these people all day long for being bad people or not doing the right thing. But at the end of the day, it's about me making peace with my own judgments about others.
Hmm.
And because again, that's going to be a way that you're leaking your energy to other things that you could be bringing in back to yourself. You could bring that life force energy back into you. And just by doing that on its own is going to help you open up. And what they're talking about in Ascension is literally the body has these mechanisms that open up as we begin to get more into our heart. We begin to get more loving, more unconditional loving, less judgmental. These mechanisms start to open up within our body, and
Hmm.
it changes our consciousness. And
Hmm.
so, it's not to say you want to spiritually bypass all the things that you need to see in your life. Like, you need to acknowledge what's happening. We have to do that, we need to be real about it. And at the same time, um, at some point, it's all about you. It's all about you. And we were taught not to put ourselves first. People tell us all our lives that's selfish. And there's a fine line between being selfish and selfless. But taking care of yourself. You know what I mean? So in
Yep.
a way, I've talked about this, and I talked about this with Ryan, like you and I were talking about before in his show. It's there, it's really, and what I've experienced helping other people too. It's really a burden when you don't take care of yourself. It's a burden on other people.
Yes. Eventually it becomes a burden without a doubt.
Yeah. So you're not doing anything for anybody by being playing the martyr or sacrificing yourself for others' needs.
Yep.
Really, what you can do, the greatest service you could do anybody else is to take care of yourself first and to be able to meet those needs for yourself. And then, therefore, as they say, your cup is overflowing and then you can give more to other people. But until you give that to yourself, it's going to be much harder to give that to other people because you don't have anything to give. And you and I know that. You and I have been there. It's just like that
Going
the
through it
busy
right now.
life, a lot of things going on. But we come back to that. We just keep coming back home to, okay, I'm coming back to me right now. What do I need right now?
Yeah.
And that's the practice. It's not going to be perfect all the time. It's going to be freaking awkward many times. People are going to probably go out of your life. They might get offended, or they might get pissed at you, or, maybe they'll love you even more because you're being yourself and you're taking care of yourself. Who knows? But it's okay. It's part of the process. And we need to allow ourselves to make mistakes. We need to allow ourselves to be awkward.
Well, I think that's where loving yourself and self-respect comes in.
Like, because
To your
Yeah.
point, if that happens, and it often does, sadly, you're gonna might get pushback in one form or shape of another from somebody else. That's where you really have to love yourself and hold that line. Like, this is I need this. I need to do this for me, and in spite of that pushback. So very important stuff that we all learn as we get older, I think. Allison, this I don't even know where this time has gone. The time has flown by. I want to ask you though before I let you go, because I know you've got this beautiful new course. I don't know how you are so prolific in books and courses and private clients and all the stuff that you do and your family, your kids. But I know a part of your course, and you have different modules. You help people with their relationship with food. And I love the whole getting in touch with their default mindset. I think that's critical. I love that you go there with people, helping them get into their imagination, moving their body. I mean, your course really is holistic. It's wonderful. But one thing that's very important that I would love for you to share with my audience before I let you go is the ability to receive. That's one of the modules of your course. And please tell us more about that, because being receptive is that feminine essence, this feminine state that all of us need to go in. And I guess it brings this discussion full circle to the beginning of the show where you talk about being resilient and strong. And basically, we grew up as Teflon children and everything was bouncing off us because we were so strong. And the problem is yeah, everything's bouncing off me my whole life. I need a little Velcro. I need stuff to stick to me a little bit, like keep stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
How, Allison, have you learned as a woman at this stage in your life to now receive, particularly because you are such a giver as well, like many of my listeners are? We are givers. We care. We want people to be happy and healthy, and we want to help. But how do we receive ourselves?
Yeah. So thank you, Amy. Yeah, it's all about you. It goes back to that discussion we had about abandoning yourself. If you're
yep.
putting everybody in front of you, you're going to abandon yourself. You're not going to honor yourself in a way. So learning how to receive is a big module, and it's a big lesson in the course, because it's what I find many people that come to see me need more of. They just have not, they're givers, they're in the service industry. They could be coaches. Some of them are coaches themselves, and they're just in a role of continual giving, and they're not really making the time and taking the time and the space to put that back into themselves,
Hmm.
or to even reflect on, like, okay, can I take some things off my calendar and add some, or, maybe I just need to take some things off my calendar and just have some space in the day so that I can be with myself. I don't have to everything. scheduled out, that was a big thing for me. It was uncomfortable. It was like, oh my God, like
Yep.
I don't have anything going on. What am I going to do? But I, soon got more comfortable with it, and then it became much easier. So receiving could be as easy as just laying on the floor and doing nothing, because really receiving is restoration. We think about our body. It's
Yep.
how we receive nutrients in the body. It's how we receive rest and the ability to uh, come back after a workout, to heal. These are things that we need on a physical level. So we kind of start there, and then we from there we learn how to receive messages, like what is our spirit really wanting to express. What's it telling us, what is our soul telling us. And of course your spirit is your essence. It's kind of what how I think of it is how you express yourself, and then your soul is a core part of you that we're starting to integrate more and more of each year and each day. We're starting to learn how to do that. So that's important, to be able to receive messages. So that requires slowing down so that you can know what your soul's telling you, because it's going to be different than what your ego tells you. So it's important to be able to know how to receive. We also want to receive abundance. We want to receive love from ourselves and other people, you know, but your ability to receive is going to be um, really important in how you really give that time to yourself. So it's like that's what the practice is I know it's like, what are we, what am I doing? Like, what things do I have them do? Well, it's really first just, hey, let's slow down. Let's just have some time of doing nothing and practice the art of receiving,
It's what you're saying is it requires fundamentally creating the space so you have the opportunity to receive. Because, I often, some of the people closest to me, like I'm currently not in a romantic relationship. And the first thing some of my closest girlfriends say is, you don't have time. Like you don't have time to be in and I'm like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. I will make the time. But then when I really get quiet with myself, Allison, and I think about it, I'm like, God, are they right? Because, at the end of the week, when Saturday comes around, I'm like, God, could I actually even go on a date? I'm exhausted. Or I've got to do laundry and this and that. I'm like, geez, maybe they're right. My mind is saying I want this. And yes, I have the time but when it comes right down to it, how am I going to receive a relationship? How the universe isn't going to give it to me if it's going to put me over the brink into the loony bin. And then I'm all stressed out and I screw up the relationship because I'm not available or whatever, right? So I love that, what you're saying is fundamentally it starts with creating the space to receive, which a lot of us aren't comfortable with because we're validating ourselves with badges of honor of being busy and productive, and we're not approved of or rewarded for having white space in our schedules. But it's required in order to get help. And I'll also add that a lot of very ambitious, go-getter, type A, independent women that listen to my show and watch on YouTube, sometimes they have a hard time receiving, Allison, because they feel like I'm an independent woman, like I can do it and I want to be self-sufficient. And I'm going to be the first one to raise my hand saying, hell yeah, I want sovereignty. I want to be able to, feed myself and grow some food and know how to make a fire if I have to keep warm or God forbid, whatever. But we're not really talking about that, right, Allison? I mean, we're talking about, yeah, we're all about being independent, but it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to receive help. It doesn't imply a weakness or an inadequacy in us, whether we're men or women. Would you like to speak about that? Because I think that's part of the receiving thing going on too.
Like,
Absolutely.
like
Well, the
ask
thing
for
is, it's
help.
a trust. It's about the trust, right? We don't know. I mean, I've been through this. I just went through this. I didn't share that story, but I'll share that another time. Like I did get some money stolen from me. I was
Yeah.
trusting people that they would take care of me and support me in this business venture that I was going to go on. And when I realized it was that, wow, okay, it's okay that it happened. Again, it's going to get messy, it's going to get awkward, but it's about you slowing down. And I wasn't slowing down then. I wasn't like sitting with my soul and asking my soul what the right thing to do. If I was doing that, I probably would have gotten a no on that one. So that's the thing. It's like it goes back to what we are talking about with the resilience factor. Like, yeah, yeah, we want to be independent. Like that is a great attribute. You can have, be self-sufficient, take care of yourself deeply, like in those ways. That's beautiful. And sometimes you need to be able to now receive, like go into this different energy, right? Of receiving. It's just like we have to go to bed at night. We have to sleep, right? And then during the day we do things. It's the same thing. It's like so it's just you're just switching the gears a little bit in your life and you're learning how to do that. And it's okay if you're not good at it. I certainly have not been, and I go in the past and I go into old patterns all the time of like doing. And I'm like, oh, okay. I need time to just do nothing. I don't, I need to maybe go on a walk without listening to anything. I need to
Oh,
just be with myself. And that could be as much as it takes, but it's just you just taking that time and creating that space, as you say, to be with yourself because you're valuing. And what that does inherently for people is it builds that value over time. They start to value themselves better,
mm,
so much more, and they start to love themselves more because they are experiencing themselves caring deeply for themselves and
mm,
actually spending time with themselves. If you think about it, many of us when we were kids, our parents were working. They had two jobs. They weren't paying any attention to us like we needed. And that's what we're still continuing to do to ourselves if we experience that in our childhood, which I did. My parents loved me. I love my parents, but like they were busy and they just didn't have time. And my experience of it was they didn't have time for me. And
mm.
so for me, I'm like, wow, okay, you know, then I'm just going to not have time for myself because that's what I learned as a child. Right. So it kind
Wow.
of happens that way. And we have to reflect on that and see, okay, why are we not prioritizing that time spent with ourselves? Are we
Mm,
afraid? It could be really many different reasons for different people. But, and again, it's like part of my story, right? It's not the full story with my parents. I mean, they did spend a lot of time with me too. So it's whatever you're holding on to, that's running the show in the background is what is creating that response. Like it's good to do things, it's good to experience things. But if you're busy because you're in a type of a trauma response in your life and you're afraid to slow down, then that's where we start.
That's so right on the money. I just can think of so many examples. If we're, it's not about being busy. It's more about why you're being busy. To your point, like, are you running away from something? Are you, I call it creative distraction. Are you keeping yourself so busy to keep you from noticing the elephant in the room that's sitting right over there because you're too busy doing this thing over here? It's like we all do it. I know I do it. I mean, I've had problems with workaholism my whole life, and it's like, well, what am I avoiding? Like the loneliness I feel when I'm not working and it's like a Sunday and everyone else is with their family and I don't have one. Like what is going on here? Like what is the story that I'm avoiding? I mean, we all self-medicate in one way or another. It's just sometimes they're more destructive than others. And like I always say, we're all trying to figure out this game, or we're all in together. So, Allison, your work certainly will help us get there. You're a living example of the person taking one step at a time forward. I love it. And um, I would love for you to tell us, the name of your current course, where people can go to find out about it. I know the website is beautifully done. Has the different modules you talk about in the course, and how they can find out about it, and of course your podcast and more about you.
Oh, thanks, Amy. Thank you so much. This has been an incredible conversation. And it was great to connect with you again here. You can find my program on finallythrivingprogram.com. And I can give them a special discount code for you as well. If they're your listener,
Yeah,
they'll get a
great.
10% off discount code as well, and I'll send that to you. And if they are, and they can sign up because registration is open. The class starts January 22nd. It's a 3-month course and coaching program. We do a live group coaching session with me every week. We have 3 guest speakers. Fiona's one of them. She takes us through a voice work session. We do a breath work session. And then Jason Picard's coming on to do a wealth management session as well. And it's really, really fun. We have an amazing time. They have a course. We do they get a module every week to do some home play with, and then we'll have a theme for that week for the group coaching session too. So it's been widely successful. The people that have taken it, it's changed their lives literally, and I'm just seeing so much. It just makes me so happy to be able to offer something like that to people. And if you're also curious, go to the website, see what you think. If you're curious about the content as well and what we'll be exploring, you can go and get a copy of my book, Finally Thriving, which it's based off of, and you
Yeah.
can listen to that on via audiobook or paper book or ebook. So
And we talked about that wonderful book. I think the last time you were on the show, we talked about the Finally Thriving, I believe actually, no, it was the first time, it was episode 62,
oh yeah,
Finally
yeah.
thriving when
the
the
book came out, and that it helps people integrate the mind, body, spirit. And then, like I mentioned in the intro, Allison's other appearance on Awakening Aphrodite was episode 97. And we talked, really cool discussion, Allison. One of my favorite shows. We talked about more inner child healing and really the soul signature. You were talking to us about your discovery of developing your own voice and voice work and the frequency healing. I know you do a lot of the sound healing in your course. So, yeah, your course just hits it out of the park because it's so holistic. I mean, you go in a lot of really great areas, very much aligned with a lot of my work. And, my although that's very similar to my work personally in my women's circles and my coaching, my course is more specific than yours. So I think your course is a great complement to mine. Mine's more about the 4 life stages of women's lives and the archetypes that we go through. Whereas your course is somebody who really wants a handle on getting a holistic lifestyle going. Like, how do I kind of
get all the
Yeah.
balls in the air. It's
a beautifully put together package for people.
Oh, thank you so much, Amy. Yeah, my intention for that was to bring joy back into people's lives again as it
oh
relates to their
yeah.
wellness practice. So I wanted to
What
make
a
it fun and
great
creative.
goal.
Yeah.
Great goal. Bring more
Yeah.
joy. I love it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, Allison. So we'll thank you for that coupon code, everybody. We'll that'll be in the show notes by the time this goes up. So to check it out. The link is in the show notes, and be sure to just look at those notes so you find that coupon code. It saves 10%. Thank you for doing that, Allison, for them.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
And everybody, both Allison and I want to hear about how the course goes and your podcast, Allison. Tell us the name of your podcast.
Oh yeah, Integrate Yourself podcast is the podcast, and I've been doing it since 2016, and it's definitely evolved over the years, and now it's more
Fantastic.
into holistic, all aspects of health, and whether it relates to spirituality, metaphysics, physical health. We talk about it all with different guests, and Amy's been on that show as well. So
That's right.
I wonder, I'll see if I can dig that out, what number that was.
I don't remember
I'll
what
find it.
that was about a year ago, I think, right, Allison?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I love that show. It's a great show.
You get
Thank
you get
you.
some of the best guests, Allison. I don't know how you get so
Thank
hooked up.
I feel the same about you.
Oh,
I'm like, you have
well,
some amazing guests as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
But thank you.
Well, we can share. Well, you and I, again, we kind of like are walking shoulder to shoulder here in what we're doing. So we're very much
Much aligned, my friend.
and I really do want you to come out to when I'm doing another live event. Hopefully this spring. That's my plan, is to have live events again for
I would
women.
love that.
And
Oh
well,
my
you're gonna
gosh,
have to
yeah.
speak.
at it, of course. It's going to be
I would love that even
Yeah,
more. Yeah, thank
okay,
you.
good, because
I can't have you be there without tapping into your knowledge. Although I will say, in my women's work and the women's circle I do now, even the online one, we all contribute. I'm not like, it's like, I don't even want to say facilitator. I'm just kind of the one who brings everyone together, but I'm no expert. Like, I'm walking this path with everybody. We're all trying to figure it out. And everybody who attends, is going to contribute to the experience and the wisdom of the group. So when you come to one of the events as well, you're going to be contributing your beautiful gifts in medicine for all of us, like everyone else in the room does. And we all have them, whether we know it or not. And sometimes you need your sisters to let you know what they are.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't even know what our own gifts are. We need other people to point them out.
Yeah.
And that's all the more reason to attend.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Thank you, Amy.
Yeah.
That sounds like it's going to be amazing. I'm
All right.
excited.
Well, I'm going to hook you up and hit you up when I get some dates. So, okay, everybody, I really hope you enjoy this amazing show with Allison Pelot, and check out her course. We'll see you next time on Awakening Aphrodite. Bye-bye, everybody. Would you like to support my mission to help empower people all over the world to be all of who they truly are? If so, please subscribe to the show, leave a review on iTunes, and share it with a friend. And if you're looking to take immediate action to align your energy and optimize your health, visit amyfournier.com. Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite. Let's awaken her together in you. I'm your hostess, Amy Fournier, and I already can't wait to be with you again and for you to hear what I have planned for the next show.
Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier. To learn more about Amy, check out her website, amyfournier.com. That's AMYFOURNIER.com. You can also check out Amy's live and on-demand virtual fitness and yoga classes, and sign up for her newsletter to receive a free mini ebook of 3 of her top tips for making holistic health a lifestyle. Again, that's amyfournier.com, and get your ebook sent to your email immediately. Connect with Amy on the daily on Instagram at FitAmyTV, FITAMYTV, and watch many of the podcast episodes and subtopic clips on her YouTube channel, which is also FitAmyTV. Enjoy, and we'll see you next time on Awakening Aphrodite.